My name is Nancy Beth Guptill, and I'm very pleased to be representing East Prince Women's Information Center and Dream Launch Grow in this joint campaign with World Speech Day Women as part of the United Nations Women's 16 Days of Activism to End Gender-Based Violence. East Prince Women's Information Center and Dream Launch Grow are both located in Prince of Rhode Island, Canada, and are feminist organizations with a focus on equity, equality, culture, and inclusion. EPIC is a nonprofit organization, and we support the status of women, and we promote gender equality. We encourage the equal participation in social, legal, health, and economic equality for women and gender diverse people. And we provide a number of different programs and services that empower women and girls to reach their full potential. Dream Launch Grow is a feminist career and entrepreneurship center that offers programs and services that are specifically designed for women and gender diverse people. We have united to create an educational-based video made up of different women's stories about their experiences with gender-based violence. Violence comes in many different forms. It could be physical, sexual, digital, financial, verbal, psychological. The violence could be within an intimate partner relationship, or it could be a random act. And for it to be gender-based, the violence happened to the victim solely based on their gender, whether they are female or someone from the LGBTQ+ community. This year's theme of the United Nations Women Unite Against Gender-Based Violence is quite timely because here in Canada on November the 9th, our federal government, through the Women and Gender Equality Canada Department, announced a 10-year action plan to end gender-based violence. This endorsement of a 10-year action plan to end GBV is a concrete step towards fulfilling a long-standing commitment by our government to work towards a Canada that's free of GBV, a Canada that supports its victims and its survivors, as well as the families from coast to coast to coast.
Hello, my name is Bailey. This is my online love affair that has a story. We met online and had amazing connection. It all happened so fast. We exchanged phone numbers on a Wi-Fi calling app. He made a huge effort to get to know me and to build trust. Flattering at first with all the love bombing, the I love yous, the you're beautifuls. I guess he had me where he wanted me. The manipulating started. The lies weren't believable, but my mind somehow was excusing them. He asked me to get him an Apple Card so we'd be able to stay in touch while he was away on this job he was going to. Now I'm asking questions of getting belittled. When I refused to comply, he would ghost me for a week, eventually touching base again, saying that he missed me and that he loved me and that he couldn't stay away from me for any longer. He needed to talk. The relationship seemed to recover from that, and we seemed to get back to where we were. He spent time rebuilding the trust through the weeks going by. Now he needs me to send money for him to get home from this job because this job is falling apart. Excuses that made no sense why he couldn't buy his own plane ticket. I said, put it on your credit card. He said he lost it. I told him I didn't have the money to send it, and he started showing his colors. He stressed that all the things I said must have all been lies, because if I really loved him, I would send him $1,000 for the plane ticket. I've heard of these online scams before on older women. I just could never imagine myself being tangled up in one. At this point, I knew I had to stop talking to him and cut all ties. He is not the man that he said he was. I blocked him on all social media and contact was stopped. I was left with so many unanswered questions and so much damage in my head. If I get anything out of this, it would be to educate others on the awareness of these scammers working on your emotions. Please be aware of your gut instincts. And if you see red flags, please heed them. They are your warnings.
Gender-based violence takes forms in many ways, one of them being vocalized abuse that can greatly impact the mental health of a woman. I grew up in a household where this was a common occurrence for my father to berate and insult my mother. He would call her disgusting names and act like nothing he did was wrong. He controlled her to the point that she made alterations to the way she looked, believing that a woman should listen to her husband, stay at home to raise children, cook, and clean. Now, this affected me growing up. It was hard to see my mother berated on and off. I learned quickly that this was not normal behavior and decided to hide what I was going through. I was embarrassed and ashamed of my household. My father was also derogatory towards me as well, sometimes choosing to be physically abusive. I was embarrassed to have friends over, but not allowed to go out. My mental health, to say, was not the best. I cut myself off from my family and was quite depressed. Regardless of all this negativity, I chose to do my best to move forward, craving a better and healthier life. I did let the behavior affect me, though. I was negative and had a hard time seeing positivity for a long time. I made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned from them. It was a long journey involving separating myself from my father, which is a hard choice to make for a lot of people. I appreciate and respect my mom for being able to still be kind and caring towards me and my siblings, even when she went through all of this.
Hello, my name is Nancy, and I'm here to share with you my experience with gender-based violence in an intimate partner relationship. It lasted for over 25 years, and it started when I was in my early 20s. We were out socializing with our friends. We met up, our paths crossed, we exchanged phone numbers. I really wish I would have listened to my intuition that evening, which said, this guy has negative energy. Let's not move or go anywhere in his direction. But you know what? I wanted to give it a chance. So we entered into a long distance friendship for 2.5 years, where we talked on the phone every evening and we had the occasional meetup for coffee. In that amount of time, he really got to know me intimately. He learned about my past and my history. He learned about my strengths and my weaknesses. He learned about my passions, my goals, and my desires. And he learned about my insecurities. When he asked me to become his girlfriend, I said yes, not because I loved him the way you should a boyfriend. It's because I trusted him, or so I thought. When I entered into that relationship, there was an immediate dynamic shift and change. Lies and cheating started. Emotional and psychological abuse started. Financial abuse started. The physical abuse came later when we moved in together. When my intuition told me that something was really off, when I would see that money was missing from the bank account, when my friends would tell me that they saw him out publicly having dinner with another woman, and I would question him about these things, he really played and pressed on my weaknesses. He would say things like, Nancy, you're just insecure because of your past. I love you. You can trust me. Nancy, I would never cheat on you. I would never steal from you. You're just insecure. It's your lack of trust. And you know what? I really, really questioned myself when he would say these things. Even though logically in my mind I knew I was right, he had all that time to use psychological warfare and press on my insecurities. When we moved in together, the physical violence started. It started off small at first. It started with when we were in confrontation about one of these many issues of cheating or money missing, what have you. He would get up in my face and he would pin me against the wall when I would want to leave the room. And he would tell me to calm down, that he wanted to talk things out. Meanwhile, it was just badgering and wearing me down. That violence escalated into him doing this very publicly when I might catch him hitting on another woman or doing something that he shouldn't be doing that would be grossly inappropriate and very dishonorable. I would go to leave and he wouldn't allow me to leave. He would pin me up against the wall very publicly and make a very big scene and get up in my face and not let me go. The worst physical violence I experienced from him was when he thought he would teach me a lesson. We lived in a beautiful apartment in downtown in a very large city in an area where people love to go clubbing. He took my glasses off, threw them, slapped me a few times in the face, and pushed me outside and locked the door. I was in my nightie. It's 2 a.m. I was very vulnerable. I could not see. I had no protection. And there was lots of people inebriated. Thankfully, there were some good people that helped me out. Yes, I tried to leave. I tried to leave many times. I would try to leave and escape when he went off to work. I'd pack a bag, go with my friends, think that I was being safe in a spot where he would never locate me. But he stalked me. He stalked me and he stalked my friends. He watched our movements and our patterns, and then he would show up and he knew exactly what to say and exactly what to do. He knew the words to make me crumble emotionally, and he knew the level of violence he would have to perpetuate by smashing and banging on the door, throwing things around, screaming, yelling, and being very persistent, to the point where I was so embarrassed, humiliated, and ashamed to be bringing this into my friend's home. I would leave just to get it to stop. I would leave and go out the front door to get away from him and try to find shelter. But he would take the car and follow me. He would open up the door, and I'd be walking down the street. He'd be laying on the horn and screaming out at me to get in, get in, get in. And everybody would be staring at me, all eyes on me. I felt small. I felt ashamed. I felt embarrassed. I just wanted the car horn to stop, the screaming to stop, the humiliation to stop. So I'd hop in the car and go back home, back to that environment. It literally took me moving home to my home province, 3 provinces away, to escape him, even though he followed me to my home province. But once he got there, he was miserable. He saw that I was supported. He saw that I had family and friends that would not tolerate what he was doing to me, and he eventually left. That is chapter 1 in the saga of the gender-based violence intimate partner relationship that I had with this man. There are other many chapters. My recommendation to any woman, any person that is in that type of violent situation is, first, listen to your intuition. Your instincts are pretty much always right. Accept the help when the help comes your way. It's very hard to break that psychological control over you that they have. But it really does take being surrounded by people who are going to stand between you and them. And then access your community services and engage police services if required. Because it literally did take a stay-away order in order for me to get the protection that I needed for myself and eventually for my family.
Hi, so my name is Catherine. In 2007, I was a victim of a violent crime. I just basically was up getting ready for work, as any other day. It was July, nice weather, and somebody came to my door and asked to use my phone, and for whatever reason, I didn't just give him my cell phone that was in my hand. I went to get my cordless phone that was up a few stairs on a different level. When I had got the phone, I turned around and he was there with a butcher knife. My children were downstairs at the time. My son was preschool age and my daughter was a teenager. They were still in bed, and he had asked for money and wanted my car, wanted me to take him someplace. What I remember most is the fear that came over me that I'd never felt, which is odd. I had gone through some things as a child, but I'd never gone through that type of fear where I could feel my blood just run cold. And I actually wet myself with fear, my body just yeah. Anyways, the reason I'm telling you that does come up later in the story. But anyways, I told him that there could be money in my car, thinking that I could get him out of the house. So what I did was I went outside of my home, and he followed me, and then I tried to run back in fast enough that he wouldn't make it into the house, but he did make it into the doorway, and there was a back and forth scuffle at the doorway, and I would get him partly out and he would be partly in, and it went on for a bit, but I finally did get him out and locked the door. and I ran upstairs and I screamed to my daughter to call for the police. Now, because I had wet myself earlier, when the police were on their way, I went and changed into dry pants, and all the time not knowing that I had already been stabbed in the back of the leg. So it must have happened when I was running away from him, because it was in the back of my leg, and it was a very significant stab. But my body just didn't, the adrenaline was running so fast that I didn't realize that it had happened. So once the police arrived, we noticed that there was some blood on the floor. So the police officer asked me to go in and check myself over to make sure I was okay, and that's when I discovered that I had been stabbed. So the ambulance came, took me, and we discovered that it was a significant stab wound that I could have bled out within moments had it just gone just like a few centimeters more. But it was a terrifying experience nonetheless, and I ended up leaving my home because I was just afraid to stay where I was after that had happened. He was apprehended a few days later, and my life from there was quite an uphill battle to get over a crime like that. I had gone directly into a domestic violence situation. Looking back now, as so many years have passed, I realized that it's probably my mind was just boggled from the trauma that I had experienced. So looking back on all that years later, I can say that I've constantly grown from, getting the help that I need